Hello, hello, everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. We are here today to go over your assignments for the week and have some fun times analyzing surveys. Okay, so let's hope that the link shows up here. I always say this every broadcast. I really should stop that. If I were really trying to go big time on YouTube, I would have less internal dialogue about the links and how this all works. Let's just see. What happens if I just go to... That was that was a text message from my boss. Apparently I need to do some stuff later. Schoolwork. It never ends in the summer, does it? I'm looking for that link. Oh, there it goes. There, it's popped up. All right, I'll just make sure my mic is mute. I apologize for that. Or my phone. Okay. Let's just send out the link-a-roni. Wealth broadcast link. Wow. Wealth broadcast. Here's the link. Okay, and once again, everything that we write about, everything that's written down will be posted on Blackboard here. So don't worry about fishing through the video. Everything's going to get recorded there, and that is the correct link. Is it not? Good. And there it is. There it is. There it goes with my email being open. All right. So first things first. The first thing that you need to do this week is you need to follow through on your what do I want to say? Your results. Let's go ahead and move up the there we go, the display capture there. You need to go over the results of your survey. So to do this, you simply go back to surveymonkey.com and log in, and this brings you to your dashboard. Like, I didn't do anything special here. I just went to surveymonkey.com, logged in, and this is what greeted me. So it says I have a recent survey, Spider-Man movie survey, and now I'm ready to analyze results. All you need to do is hover your mouse over it, click on Analyze Results, and it will spit out a nice little report here after it's done spinning around there. Okay, and then here's of course, this is kind of useless as results because they only had one question, but it'll list out all the questions, and it'll usually have a graph here and a little chart. It really depends on what kind of question it was. If you had that for that one required text box type question, it'll have a list of nearly 20 results there. So this can be quite lengthy, but what you need to do is you need to open this up, and this will give you a way that you can actually start to complete the assignment for the week. So what exactly is that assignment, you're probably wondering. So let's go ahead and swap that around and take a gander at that assignment. Okay, so the audience analysis write-up. The first thing you need to do is under the appropriate discussion thread. Again, that'll be posted by the time the video goes live, or rather, at least by the time you get to look at it. You need to report your results. Okay, so kind of showing you how to do that there in the beginning of the video. There's different ways you can report your results on this discussion thread that you create. You can copy and paste the results. You can create screenshots and send them as an attachment. Either way, you should probably pair it with what we call a narrative description. And by that, I mean something like this. When I asked, did you see the movie? 48% of the audience said no. 13% yes, and a bunch of people skipped the question. And then the survey report tells you that. You don't really have to do the math or anything like that unless you I don't know, wrote the question in a kind of a strange way in which you have to add percentages together, which might be useful in those Likert scale questions. Maybe you're only interested in, 48% of the people said agree or strongly agree. All right, so that might be some math that you have to do there if you choose to report the results in that fashion. All right, that's a choice up to you, but you do need to report your results. So you would report results. You can report the results of all 10 questions. Or if you have a series of questions that are kind of related, that kind of talk about really one area of your topic, you could then write a narrative description that kind of summarizes the results of those 3 questions. All right, so it's a little bit different for each of you, but the reality is that whatever you are trying to measure or evaluate, I would like for you to report. All right, so that's how you can start off your write-up. It doesn't need to be like in a full introduction, main point, conclusion type essay, by the way. I really just want you to report your results and then answer the following questions about those results. Um, so you can just literally go down this bulleted list here to complete the assignment. So you start up here, you report your results. Excellent. Now you can answer these questions. So what question or outcome was in line with your initial expectations for the audience? No matter what, we all have this initial expectation that our audience is either going to know or not know things. They're going to have certain viewpoints, or they might hold certain opinions. So this question is kind of asking you to get at what you assume the audience would know, and well, whether or not the audience was really kind of conforming to your um, um, not preconditioned. Gosh darn it! What I teach speech. I know vocab words. Your preconceptions. Wow, there we go. So that's kind of what that question is about. And why do you think maybe the question followed what you felt? What question or outcome surprised you? Again, similar thing. Maybe you encountered something different. Why do you think that was? Now it's entirely possible that your preconceptions just knocked it right out of the park. In which case, your answer to any of these questions could be, that wasn't my experience. So maybe you just totally found out things were totally different. In which case, you could write a lot about what question or outcome surprised you, but you probably, to answer this question, you can say, look, I just did not expect these results at all. Similarly, if you were just knocking it out of the park with your preconceptions, again, you can just say, I wasn't really surprised by any of these results. I had these assumptions about my fellow students based on a previous interaction over the discussion boards. I feel like I know why, and then you can explain that further. So that's valid. Those are valid answers. So, but most of you will have an answer to each of these. You'll have some parts of your 10 questions that you were like, what? And other parts where you're like, yep, I knew what was going on with this audience, and the survey has validated that idea. So then the next ideas are a series of prompts that are very similar. So complete and explain the following things. So I kind of started them as sentences. You don't literally have to start them based on these results. But you should cover the material that these prompts are trying to cover. So based on the results that you have, you should definitely mention something about your topic because, and then you maybe cite a question or two that indicated the audience didn't quite know what was going on. Again, this might alter yourself a little bit because maybe you already knew you needed to mention that and the survey validated that impression for you. Maybe you assumed, again, wrongly that they would know something, in which case you should definitely mention it. Either way, you should definitely mention something because based on the results you have, I might be careful in wording some controversial idea because maybe you have an audience that is somewhat hostile to either your topic or maybe the position you're going to have on that topic when you go to plan out your main points. In which case, you don't change what your main points are. You should notice here um, um, that the idea of wholesale changing your topic is not really on the table. Um, because I have edited it in here. This is based on something out of your workbook. You don't need to look at your workbook. You should just look at this. I should not change my plant topic because. Um, anyway, it's not really something that's on the table. So if you want to talk about the importance of comprehensive sex education, and you realize your audience maybe is kind of hostile to that idea, don't change your topic. Instead, say, I have to be careful in wording some of these ideas, or I should word my ideas like this or that, because I feel like they might be more receptive if I say it this way. Something like that. And of course, if you seem stymied by this question, I'd be happy to help you out, especially when you can tell me the results and what you plan to do with your speech overall. Again, at this point, you shouldn't have a detailed plan for your speech yet. You just have a topic you wanted to cover. You've asked 10 questions about it. I've looked over your 10 questions. It seems like the people that posted there are at least somewhat aware of what they're doing. So you're doing well on that. And again, you want to be careful in changing your wording because maybe you want to find different, better sources because um, of whatever result you got. You might also say, based on these results, I should not change my planned topic because. So this is kind of a weird question, I know, because I'm forcing you to take a stance that you should not change your topic. Um, because having different viewpoints is something that, as a society, I think, if you allow me to get on my soapbox here and use use it as a vehicle to try to teach I think a principle of public speaking, is that you shouldn't be afraid to change your overall topic or your necessarily um, your position on certain controversial issues based solely on what your peers think. All right, that's what I'm trying to avoid. Now, it's perfectly acceptable to change your position on a topic because as you research it, it turns out there's no evidence to support that position. That is a legitimate, I have to change my mind. I can't support this idea anymore because when I looked explicitly for support, I either found nonsense or I just didn't find anything at all. That is a mature thing to do, and especially if that happens to you during this course and you want to ask me about it or talk about how you might change it. Usually we don't have the deep sixer topic anyway, all right? But uh, and by what I mean by that is that there usually is some evidence. Most people don't come to their beliefs based on nothing. But nonetheless, if you find evidence that contradicts your viewpoint and you just can't hold it anymore, that's a totally legit reason to change your topic and your thesis. But just because the audience you have may not like what you have to say, that is not a legitimate reason. We need to, as a society, work better at conveying controversial ideas and wording them in a way that people will listen, even if you're fairly certain they won't necessarily agree or prone to agreeing with you at the beginning. Um, you don't argue with people who disagree with you because you hope to necessarily change their mind. You argue with people who disagree with you because somewhere out in the wider world that's watching your interaction, they're undecided. And you're really doing a service to them by making sure that your viewpoint, which you do have evidence to support, gets a fair shake in their mind. All right, maybe that's just the debate coach in me coming out, where we have to debate both topics. So there's a lot of things that are controversial topics that these days that I can see both sides on. When you strip away, some of the ad hominem and the partisan rhetoric, there's usually some legitimacy and some research that's validity that's valid rather. So, like I said, changing your topic because people may not like it, not a good thing. All right, I want you to practice about explaining how you don't need to change your topic because I have this evidence or I have that evidence, and that's kind of the response I'm hoping to get there. But honestly, if your response is, I shouldn't change my topic because I knew it was one that would resonate with my audience, and the survey validated that. Okay, that's a fair response as well. Okay, ranted over on that item. And then finally, based on these results, I think the audience will be either unreceptive to my speech or receptive to my speech because. So these two items kind of go together. Why do you think they would be receptive to your speech? Why do you think they would be unreceptive to your speech? Again, the answer could be as simple as, I just came right out and asked them, did you like the Spider-Man movie? And most of them said no. My speech is that my topic or my planned thesis was, Spider movie is awesome. So Spider-Man movie is awesome. So I can kind of tell I'm going to have an uphill battle. All right, something similar to that. It doesn't. This write-up does not have to again be anything extensive. You'll notice I don't have any page length or word requirements here. I just want you to work your way through each of these items. If you do depending on the sentences, I suppose, that you craft. But in theory, you can have one sentence for each of these items. All right, that'd be fine. Reporting your results would probably be the longest part, but again, depending on how you wrote your survey, you might have 2 or 3 questions that are related to an actual area of interest. At which case you can report 2 or 3 questions worth of stuff in just one sentence. It really just depends on how you wrote your survey. Again, I'd be happy to help you if you have any questions about that. All right, so that is the discussion thread. I did it again. I have this PowerPoint up here, and I didn't put a due date on it. I intend for this to be due on Friday. No, wait. No, I don't. Yes, I do. No, I don't. You know what? I'll have to look at that. I'm suddenly having a brain fart because I realized I need to give you time to take the surveys, don't I? The surveys are due. It's not taking them yet. This will be due Sunday then. See, I rushed through this PowerPoint. Now I look like a doofus. So anyway, the next thing I'm going to have to alter this due date too, so don't you worry about it. Like I said, that's why it's important that I write this stuff down. All right, so with doing your surveys by Friday and getting your write-up by Sunday, that is a fast turnaround. You know what? I don't like that. I'll consider that more off camera. So you'll have a written assignment page that's going to be slightly edited, but none of this main stuff is going to be edited. All this stuff is pretty much good, except for the due dates. So let's go ahead and just dive into it. Your actual presentation assignment. So this assignment comes in the really what I've done here, and I was explaining this to a student last night, is that for the 10-week course and the 5-week course that have since been sharing some videos here, so I understand why people were confused about the length of the course. The group speech assignment, at least the objectives that it covers, you haven't had yet, right? And that's how I envisioned that you would spend the final month, because going through this full sequence of events with the audience analysis that you actually take as a class and things like that, that takes about a month. So I figured you could do this assignment, and your peers that did the 5-week assignment, they did other things to meet these objectives regarding audience analysis. So in any case, everybody walks away with the same skills, same idea, or same 3 credit hours worth of ability to do things. But you all get the luxury of doing it over a longer period of time. All right. And in the end, I think it'll all balance itself out. You have to do a few more details. They didn't have some details, but they had to do things rapid fire. It'll all balance out to be fair in the end, I'm sure. But anyway, so this speech or this presentation, the time limit is 8 to 10 minutes. The only really limitation here is that it cannot be a demonstration type speech. And if you, like I said, don't necessarily look at your workbook, look at this page. But like I said, I'm basing this again on the assignment, the group speech assignment, and the main syllabus in your workbook. I've reduced your requirements for it because you're a single person. Or maybe not a single person. That has loaded language, doesn't it? You're a solo student doing this on your own. So I've reduced the time limit, the number of people you need to have in your assignment, and I've also kind of reduced some of the requirements a little bit. The one thing I am keeping is that it cannot be a demonstration type speech, but you can do either an informative or persuasive speech. It doesn't matter to me. But a persuasive speech rather is recommended, since given the time limit I'm giving you here, it's somewhat natural to turn longer informative speeches into myth-busting type persuasive speeches, if that makes sense. It's just kind of something that naturally happens. So my philosophy is that if you're gonna, you might experience this irresistible urge to make it into a myth-busting speech, or a speech where you want someone to do something by the time you're done working with it. So you might as well just go at it from that perspective. But if you want to do a pure informative, here are the statistics for violence in Chicago, type informative speech for 8 to 10 minutes, that is fine. Just know that, usually when you have this longer time limit here, that you might just become persuasive. So you might as well just kind of plan at that from the beginning, as opposed to going to the last week of class realizing that there's a different that you've taken a different tack than you've planned on at the beginning. Anyway, you need 8 citations from at least 6 different sources. There's no limit on the type of source, so if you want 6 different magazines, that's fine. If you want 6 different newspapers, that's fine. If you want 6 different websites, that's fine. Um, there's no limitation there. I just want it to be relatively well researched. You must prominently reference information from your audience analysis survey and or write up at least once during your speech. All right. So really the thrust of this assignment and the thrust of the group speech assignment in the longer traditional course is really just to get you familiar with planning a speech based on information you get from the audience. All right. Um, I'll be somewhat honest here in saying we'll go over the rubric for the speech a bit later, but don't worry too much about having the single best, most effective persuasive speech ever. You've already done that. You've already done that. You've also already had the informative speech evaluation as well. This is kind of a project that's mostly about working in audience analysis, and that's where most of the points are going to be when we look at the rubric a bit later, and as the time approaches. I want you to do the audience write-up first, so that a lot of those requirements we'll talk about will make sense. The overall speech is worth 125 points. I know that might seem weird because of the longer time limit and the more research citations. But keep in mind, I'm assigning points to your audience write-up as well. So really the project's going to be the largest grade in the class, since it's the things that you're doing together. I've just broken up the 2 assignments, at least in terms of points. So anyway. So the visual aid is optional. If we decide to have a visual aid displayed, you can lose points if you forget some of the principles we talked about earlier in the course. So if you have a visual aid, but it's just, it's one of those allowed, I've got a picture on every background, the text, you can't read the text type visual aids, I will take off points. Last time, a few of you went the extra mile to include your visual aid, and I appreciated that. I think I wrote that in all your comments for those of you who did that. And I cautioned you that a couple people made some of those mistakes. Next time I said, this time I'm not really going to take off points, but next time I will. So this is, again, your warning that if you want to have a visual aid, I will not stop you. You don't need to turn one in even. But if you do have a visual aid that you want to display, please make sure that it's not busy and the text shows up and that it's accurate, or at least at the very least it's consistent with what you're saying. Because if I notice a mistake like that, I will take off points this time. So main points with support. So the written part of this assignment, of this initial part here, we're going to change the due date again. Main points with support and spoken citations will be due in the discussion forum, let's say by next Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. I will edit this PowerPoint and post it in an edited form in a moment here. The example here is here's what is really due. You don't need to have your introduction, you don't need to have your conclusion, but I do want you to have your main points. So here's an example of what I mean. Spiders are health hazards in your home. Let's say that's one of my main points. And then down here I have my research with a spoken citation where I say 10% of all spiders end up being eaten in your sleep, according to spidersaregross.com, accessed on June 27th, 2018. And I'm pretty sure somewhere out there is spidersaregross.com. But full disclaimer, I made all of that information up. Although I have heard the urban legend that you eat spiders in your sleep. I don't know how true that is, though. So those are your 2 assignments that are coming down the pipeline in the next, let's say, 7 calendar days. Again, I will revisit the due dates. I don't know. I had we call it a brain fart, if you allow me to be so crass. I forgot. You're still taking each other's surveys at this moment. Talk about jumping the gun. So I will redo the written due dates so that you're not confused or have to go through the video to find the information. Okay, well, I don't really see anyone in chat. I see 2 people watching, and there's maybe 3 on a mobile. So if you have any questions, I'll be hanging out in the chat room after the video drops off here. But otherwise, continue to send me emails. I appreciate the dialogue and the questions that you all have had so far. And again, I saw that after I initially mentioned how people weren't posting in the discussion forum, all of you basically stepped up and started and went back to it. And I do apologize. I'm pretty sure the fact that I had the videos, especially for the first 3.5 weeks or so, were doing double duty. That probably confused a heck of a lot of people. So I apologize for that. I should have planned that out better. Um, and made it more clear that at one point in terms of your mid semester, not really your mid semester, about a third of the way through the semester, we'd be taking a divergence from the other people, your friends in the other course or whatever. So thanks a lot, everybody. I really appreciate it. Again, keep up that participation. You guys are doing really well. I just wanted you to make sure that you came back to the class. After I noticed that a couple people didn't turn in their assignments for the week. I didn't assess any penalties, by the way. For those of you who turned in some of that stuff late, they were not procedural, but they were process assignments, and you turn them in. So it's all good. We're all good. And again, I kind of take responsibility for miscommunicating that there. So again, it's not my habit to penalize people when I'm the doofus. So again, have a great evening. I don't see any questions in chat, so I'll sign off. Have a great evening, morning, lunchtime, midnight, whenever it is you are watching this.